Chosen one, stop. Whatever you were in the middle of doing, set it down. Not because everything has been handled, not because the weight has lifted, or the questions have been answered, but because God has been trying to say something to you, and the only reason you have not fully received it is that no one has given you permission to go still enough to actually hear it. You have been misreading the silence. The closed doors you called rejection, they were not that. The delay you called abandonment, it was not that either. Every single thing you have been interpreting as God going quiet has been something else entirely. And today, He has a word that is going to reframe all of it. But first, I need you to know that you did not arrive here randomly. The one who counts the days in a waiting season, who witnesses the prayers no one else hears, who was present in your quietest and most private moments of doubt. He arranged this specific message for this specific hour of your life. You are not too late. You are not forgotten. You are exactly where a word this important could finally reach you. Everything I share with you from this moment on belongs to you freely. And if at any point your spirit tells you there is something more waiting for you, a next step, a specific tool, you will find that in the description and the pinned comment below. But only follow that if you feel genuinely led to. For now, just be here. He has been waiting for this opening. Before we go any further, let me tell you what this message holds from beginning to end, because I want you to stay with me through all of it. I am going to teach you an ancient Hebrew word that will completely change how you understand the silence you have been in. I am going to walk you through 5 signs your spirit has already been responding to this season. I am going to show you the sacred strategy God has been executing while you thought nothing was moving. And before this message ends, I am going to speak a declaration over your life that I believe you will carry long after today. Every part of this was assembled for you. Stay until the end. Now, I want you to think about what the past several weeks have actually felt like. Not the version you give when someone asks how you are doing. The real version, the one underneath that answer. Because there is a kind of tiredness that has nothing to do with sleep. It is not a physical exhaustion, not the kind that a good night of rest fixes. It is deeper than that. It is the kind that settles in when you have been moving for a long time through spaces that used to feed you and now just drain you. When the routine that once felt right now feels hollow. When you show up to the same environments, the same conversations, the same commitments as before, and somewhere inside you, something has gone quiet. That is the first thing I want to name. The places and routines and relationships that once gave you energy, they no longer do. And before you call that depression, or restlessness, or ingratitude, I need you to hear what it actually is. Your spirit is outgrowing what used to be enough for it. Not because those things were wrong, but because you are being prepared for something that requires more room than your current life has been giving you. And your spirit already knows it, even if your mind is still trying to catch up. If that resonates, type the word Amen in the comments right now. Let it be your acknowledgement that you recognize this season. The second thing I want to name is the noise in the stillness. You finally sit down, you finally stop. You expect some quiet, some relief, and your mind gets louder. Thoughts race. Every unresolved thing rushes forward at once, and instead of rest, you get a kind of internal turbulence that makes you wonder if something is wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you. What you are experiencing is a frequency attempting to recalibrate. Your spirit has been running in survival mode for a long time, reactive, managing, going, processing. And when you finally go still, the shift creates noise, not because peace is absent, because it is arriving. And the process of its arrival is its own kind of storm before the calm. The third thing, and this one is subtle, is the sleep that is not quite sleep. You wake at the same quiet hours. Not always from worry, not always from a bad dream. Just awake, alert in the middle of the night, when everything around you has gone silent and the world is holding its breath, as if something in you is keeping vigil that your waking hours have been too busy to sustain. That is not insomnia. That is your spirit holding a posture of listening that your days have not allowed. The fourth thing is repetition you cannot explain. The same phrase showing up in an article, in a conversation you overhear, in a song that comes on at exactly the wrong moment and says exactly the right thing. The same theme following you across unrelated sources until you cannot pretend it is coincidence anymore. A message repeating itself until the receiver is ready enough to take it in. And the fifth thing, the one that brought you here today, is this. You arrived at this specific moment, at this specific point in your life, and something in you recognized what was happening before it even fully began. Something said, "Pay attention to this one." That recognition was not random. That was the broadcast, finally reaching someone tuned to receive it. Before I go further, I want to stop here for just a moment, because I think you have been carrying something heavy for longer than you have given yourself credit for. The fact that you are still here, still willing to pause, still choosing to receive that, says something about you that has not been said out loud in a while. You are still showing up. In the middle of the confusion and the waiting and the silence that does not make sense, you are still showing up. Take one breath wherever you are. Not to do anything with it, not to receive or release, just to acknowledge that you made it here, and that is enough. Good. Now let me show you what all 5 of those things are actually pointing toward, because they are not random symptoms, they are signals, and the signal they are sending together is more specific and more significant than you have been told to believe. There is a word I need to teach you today. It is one of the oldest words in the Hebrew language, and I say that carefully because this is not a theology lesson. It is not academic. It is something that, when you understand it at the level it was originally meant, will completely change how you have been reading the silence in your life. The word is shama. In the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verse 4, there is a sentence that has been called the central declaration of the entire Hebrew faith. It begins with a single word, shema, which comes from shama, and for thousands of years, devout men and women have recited that word, believing it simply meant, hear, listen, pay attention. But shama does not simply mean hear. In Hebrew, the word for hearing and the word for obeying are the same word. Shama means to hear in a way that changes what you do next, to receive something in a way that moves your feet differently. In the ancient Hebrew consciousness, there was no such thing as truly hearing something and remaining unchanged by it. If you listened and kept doing exactly what you were already doing in the deepest sense of the language, you had not heard at all. Think about what that means. When God says stop whatever you are doing and listen, He is not asking for your attention, He is asking for your alignment. He is not asking you to receive information and move on. He is asking you to receive a new direction. The hearing is the doing. The stillness is the act of obedience. You do not stop first and then obey. The stopping is the obedience. And the moment you understand that, every season of silence you have ever been in begins to look different. Now, I want to tell you about a man who understood this without ever knowing the word for it. His name was Moses. You may know the story in outline, but let me tell you it the way it actually happened. Moses was not in a moment of prayer when God spoke to him. He was not in a temple or a prepared space or on his knees and ready. He was in the middle of his ordinary day, doing the ordinary work of his ordinary life, leading the flock through ground he had walked 100 times before, probably planning the next practical step of a life that had, by that point, gone quiet in ways he had stopped expecting to change. And then he saw something, a bush burning. Not unusual in a desert. What was unusual was that the bush was not being consumed. The fire was there, but the wood was not burning down. And Moses could have kept walking. He could have rationalized it. could have filed it away under things I will think about later and moved on to the next task on the list of tasks that filled his days. But he turned. And here is the part the text actually emphasizes. God did not speak until Moses turned. God waited. He let the bush burn. He waited to see what Moses would do. And when Moses finally turned toward what was burning that should not have been burning, then the voice came. Moses, Moses, take off your sandals, because the ground where you are standing is holy ground. Not ground that will become holy later. Not ground that used to be holy once. The ground where you are standing right now. Moses was not in a sacred place. He was not in a prepared moment. He was in the middle of his work, on familiar ground, in a season that had not gone the way he expected. And God said, "This place, this moment, this ground, your ordinary life, has deposited you on this, is it? Take off what is between your feet and this moment, and receive." Do you understand what I am saying to you? The season you have been in, the one that has felt like wilderness, like waiting, like motion that has no visible destination, that is not the ground before your holy moment. That is the holy ground. The word comes to those willing to turn. And you turned. You are here. You stopped. Type the words "I hear" in the comments right now, if that landed somewhere real in you. Let it be a shama response. Let it be your turning. Now let me show you what was actually being built while you were in motion. Because here is what your waiting season was never empty of, even when it felt like it. 3 things were being formed in you that could not have been formed any other way. The first was the precision of your hearing, your dependence on constant input, constant feedback, constant external validation. It was being slowly stripped, not as punishment, as calibration. You are being prepared for a frequency of reception that requires quiet in the instrument. The second was a tolerance for the in-between, the capacity to carry an incomplete answer without collapsing, the ability to hold a question open without forcing it toward a resolution. That is not a weakness you developed. That is a skill you earned in the hardest possible way. And where you are going requires exactly that, someone who can be in the middle of the process without demanding that it look finished. The third was a clarity about who actually belongs in the next chapter. Some connections from your former season have completed their purpose. Some doors that felt like rejection were exits from paths that were never designed to carry you forward. And the grief of that was real. I am not dismissing it. But what was being cleared was not just what you lost. It was the weight of what was never yours to carry forward in the first place. What remains is what belongs to the season you are entering. And that brings me to something I want to mention before we close this first part, because it connects directly to everything we just walked through. There is a scientist who has spent over 34 years studying what happens when the human brain returns to its original, natural state. What he found goes beyond neuroscience, into territory that connects directly to prayer, to frequency, to the kind of spiritual receptivity we have been talking about. He has mapped a complete system of restoration, and today I will only be able to open the first door. The rest will come when you are ready. But hold that, because when we come back together for the second part of this message, I am going to show you exactly what he discovered, and why it changes how you understand what your brain has been doing in this season, and what is possible when it returns to what it was always designed for. Stay with me, because the next part is where everything that was said today finally snaps together. God did not stop just anyone. He stopped you, and there is a specific reason for that. A reason that has everything to do with who you are, not just what you are going through. I will show you that reason when we continue. When we left each other, I made you 3 promises. I promised to show you what that scientist discovered. I promised to show you the sacred strategy God has been running behind the scenes while you thought nothing was moving. And I promised to speak a declaration over your life before today ends. I am going to keep all 3 of those promises in this message. But first, I want to be completely honest with you about something, because you deserve honesty more than you deserve a smooth presentation. Partway through today, I am going to introduce you to something called the Genius Song. It is an audio tool built on the exact science I am about to walk you through, specifically designed to reactivate the frequency we have been discussing. I will explain everything about it in full when we get there. For now, I just want you to know it exists. If what I share today resonates with your spirit and you feel led to go deeper, the information is in the description and the pinned comment below. No pressure. Only move toward it if something in you confirms it. That is all I will say for now. Let me show you the strategy first. Here is what God has been doing while you thought nothing was happening. And I want to say that carefully, because I know what it feels like to pray the same prayer more times than you can count and watch the answer not arrive. And after a while, the silence begins to feel like an answer of its own. Like maybe the door is actually closed. Like maybe you missed something or moved wrong somewhere and the window passed. That is not what the silence means. The silence means the strategy is in motion, and the strategy requires you not to interfere with it. There are 3 areas where God has been working with a precision that has been invisible to you, not because it was hidden, but because you have been moving too fast to track it. The first area is relational realignment. For those entering this season, and I say for those, because I want to be truthful and not promise what I cannot verify, for those entering this season, certain connections are completing, not always through conflict, not always through a dramatic ending, sometimes just through a quiet drift that has no single explanation. People you expected to still be present have become distant, and the pain of that has been real. But here is what God has been doing inside the relational disruption. He has been creating space, not empty space, intentional space. Because you cannot simultaneously hold on to every connection from the previous version of your life and receive the people who are calibrated for where you are going, the two cannot coexist in the same hands. The letting go was not a failure. It was a preparation. The second area is something that has been happening inside your discernment, quietly, in ways you may not have named yet. You are getting better at something. You are getting better at telling the difference between your voice and the voice, between movement that comes from anxiety and movement that comes from genuine alignment, between doing something because it makes you feel productive and doing something because you actually know it is right. That distinction is being sharpened in you right now. And the reason the uncertainty has been so loud, the reason the confusion has felt so thick, is that discernment under construction feels a lot like not knowing anything at all. But you are not becoming less clear. You are becoming more precise. The third area is provision, repositioning. The resources and the doors and the connections that are meant to carry the next chapter of your life are not missing. They are not being withheld from you. They are being redirected through paths that your current direction could not access. The strategy requires the pause, because the destination you are being positioned toward is not reachable through the route you have been on. God is not blocking you. He is rerouting your access. And here is what has been standing in the way of your ability to receive all 3 of these shifts. It is not your faith. Your faith has been extraordinary. It is a belief, deep, sincere, well-intentioned, that diligence and forward motion are always the language of trust. That moving is believing, that stopping is giving up, and in certain seasons, that is completely true. But there is also a season where the most faithful thing you can do is go completely still, where releasing control over the outcome, where stopping the manufacturing of the next step is not weakness. It is the exact form of trust the next level requires. Let me give you something practical to hold before we go any further. In any decision you are facing right now, before you act, ask yourself 3 things, just 3 questions. 1. Is this mine to do, or am I filling a space because silence makes me uncomfortable? 2. Does this movement come from genuine clarity, or from the fear that nothing will happen if I stop? 3. If I went completely still for 24 hours and just listened, would I still move this direction? You do not need to write them down. Just let them live in you for the rest of today. Because you are allowed to stop. You are allowed to wait. You are allowed to receive something without having earned it today. Before we get to the part that changes everything, and we are very close now, I need you to hear this. What is coming next is the reason God said, stop in the first place. It is the reason today has been building the way it has been building. Stay with me, because this last piece is the one that makes everything else make sense. Actually, before I show it to you, there is one more layer I have been holding until now. One more truth. And this one is the reason the silence has felt so personal, so pointed, so specifically aimed at the deepest part of who you are. I have saved it until this moment, because it only lands correctly after everything you have just walked through. Here it is. The chosen one does not force what God carries. God carries what the chosen one receives. Let that settle for a moment. You have been operating under a belief, sincere, faithful, earnest, that the breakthrough is something you have to create. That if you pray the right way, believe hard enough, show up consistently enough, stay faithful enough, the answer will arrive. And in that belief, there has been something genuinely beautiful. There has been real devotion and real love for the things you have been believing for. But here is what that belief has also been costing you. Every time you forced a door, you moved away from the door that was already open. Every time you manufactured movement out of fear that nothing would happen if you stopped, you created noise that covered the signal you were trying to receive. Every act of forcing was, at the same time, an act of missing. Not because effort is wrong, not because faithfulness is misguided, but because what God is carrying toward you travels on a frequency of surrender. And you cannot receive something on a frequency you are not tuned to. Think about Moses one more time. When he turned toward that burning bush, he did not come with a strategy. He did not approach it with a plan. He came with nothing but a willingness to turn. And in that single act of changing direction, in that moment of choosing to stop and look, he became the receiver of the most significant assignment of his entire life. 40 years that looked like wandering were not wasted. They were calibration. Every silent season was God tuning the instrument before handing it the assignment. The silence you have been interpreting as absence, it was not that. The delay you called denial, it was not that either. Every closed door was a door being carried past, not a door being permanently locked. Every quiet season was God working on the frequency of the receiver. And now, right now, in this moment, something is different. I want to invite you to do something in your mind, wherever you are right now. You do not need to move. You do not need to change your position. Just let this happen in your imagination. Picture what you have been gripping the tightest, the prayer you have brought back the most times, the thing you have been standing in front of, pushing on, returning to. See it clearly in your mind for just a moment. Now, without letting go of the desire, without deciding it is over or giving up on what you believe, picture your hands opening, not releasing the want, just releasing the grip on how and when and through what door it has to arrive. Just in this one moment, in this one breath, picture open hands. That image, that single internal shift, is what shama looks like in the body. That is the posture that receives what God has been carrying. That is the turning of Moses. And I hear the Father saying to you, and I share this, humbly, not as a certainty I can claim for myself, but as what I believe is being placed on my heart. For someone hearing this today, I hear him saying, "You think you missed my voice. You did not. I have been saying it in every closed door. I have been present in every quiet night. I have been in every morning you chose to show up again, even when nothing had changed yet. You were not in the dark. You were in the preparation. And now I am asking you to stop, not because you failed, but because you are finally tuned to receive what I have been carrying toward you since before you knew you needed it. You are the voice. You carry words that were calibrated for specific people, at specific moments you have been uniquely prepared for. The silence you walked through was not emptiness, it was precision. The quiet was the sharpening of the instrument. You are the seer. The sensitivity you have been tempted to call anxiety, the awareness of things shifting before they shift, the perception of what others around you cannot yet track, that is not a liability. That is spiritual intelligence operating at full capacity. And you are about to use it in ways you have not been able to access before. You are the spiritual warrior. You held the ground. In the silence, in the waiting, in the seasons when nothing visible confirmed that you were right to keep going. You held. And holding ground in the dark is the specific, irreplaceable skill required for what you are walking into now. You did not survive the wilderness. You were formed by it. Before I show you the tool I promised, I want to make sure you know what you actually received today, because I do not want you to leave here and feel like you heard something beautiful but cannot name what it was. Here is what today gave you. You learned the Hebrew word shama, that true hearing and true obedience are the same act, that the stillness God is asking for is not passive, it is the most active form of trust available to you. You saw Moses on ordinary ground in an ordinary season, turning toward what God had prepared, and you understood that the ground you are standing on right now is not the ground before your holy moment. It is the holy moment. You walked through 5 signs your spirit has already been responding to. You received the truth that the sacred strategy is already in motion, and you received the deepest truth of today, that you are not the one who builds the breakthrough. You are the one who receives it. You are a chosen one who just chose to shama. Now let me show you one more thing. There is a scientist named Dr. Robert Lake. He spent 34 years studying the human brain, specifically what happens between the brain of a young child and the brain of most adults. And what he found was not what he expected to find. When you were born, your brain produced what neuroscientists call gamma waves at a natural, sustained rate. Gamma is the highest frequency the brain generates. At institutions like MIT, Princeton, and several other leading research universities, the data on gamma is consistent. It is associated with heightened intuition, accelerated pattern recognition, and what researchers call a flow state. A state where the right thought arrives before your logical mind has caught up with it, where connections happen naturally without forcing, where things that should be complicated feel clear. Children live in that state. You lived in that state. And then something changes. Dr. Lake called it the decline effect. Around the age of 7, as the pressures of the educational system, the social environment, the daily demands of structured modern life begin to accumulate, the gamma frequency in the brain begins to recede. Not disappear, recede, go quiet. And by the time most people reach adulthood, that frequency has become so suppressed that it is nearly inaccessible under normal conditions. This is why prayer sometimes feels like it is bouncing off a ceiling. This is why spiritual practices that should feel alive can feel mechanical. This is why some seasons of faith feel like you are transmitting into silence, not because the connection is gone, but because the receiver has been turned down. Dr. Lake spent 3 decades developing a way to reverse that. What he created is called the Genius Song. It is a 7-minute audio track that uses a technology called brain entrainment, a method validated across multiple research institutions and studied in peer-reviewed literature. You put on a pair of headphones. You sit still. You press play. No technique required. No specific belief system or background needed. The audio works by guiding your brain's natural frequency back toward gamma, back toward the state it was always designed to operate in. This is the tool I seeded in the first part of today. This is what connects directly to the shama posture, to the open hands, to the season of recalibration you have been in. The strategy God has been executing in your life is most receivable when the instrument of your perception is tuned to its original frequency. More than 18,000 people have now used the Genius Song, and the data from that group tells a quiet but significant story. Less than 4% of them have ever requested a refund. More than 96% continued past the guarantee window, not because they were promised dramatic overnight transformation, because the changes that came were precisely what they had been waiting for. Clarity, where there had been fog. Timing, that made no logical sense. A growing sense of alignment that did not have to be forced or manufactured. One woman, 38 years old, a searcher, her entire adult life, someone who had done the retreats and the courses and the programs and the books and never found what she was actually looking for, bought the Genius Song because, as she put it, she had run out of other things to try. 2 weeks later, she wrote back with one word to describe what had changed: synchronicities. She said, "Things are beginning to happen in the right order. The right person arrives on the right day. The answer to a question I was holding shows up from a direction I never would have looked. It feels like the universe is speaking in a language I can finally understand." She did not change her circumstances. She changed her frequency. And when the frequency changed, her perception of everything around her began to respond to it differently. I want to be honest with you about what this is and is not. The Genius Song is not a substitute for faith. It is not a formula for manufacturing a specific outcome. It is a tool for a specific function, restoring the neurological condition under which your natural spiritual receptivity operates most clearly. For those who feel led to it, the original price is $49. For people watching this message today, Dr. Lake has made it available at $39, not as a commercial promotion, but because his mission from the beginning has been to reach the people who actually need this, not simply those who can pay the most for it. That price does not exist anywhere else. Not on any platform, not through any other channel. When you purchase it, 4 additional gifts come with it, at no extra cost. An audio track, calibrated specifically for children, valued at $19. The original sourcebook that inspired the film The Secret, the actual text it drew from, not the adaptation, valued at $20. A 22-minute guided visualization through 4 areas of your life: relationships, finances, health, and peace, valued at $29. And a practical habit guide used by those who have sustained the results over time, valued at $12. That is $80 in additional resources that belong to you, and every single one of them is yours to keep, regardless of what you decide. The guarantee is 90 days, no conditions, no questions. The bonuses stay with you no matter what. If your spirit has been confirming what I have been sharing today, if something in you has been quietly saying yes to the shama, yes to the open hands, yes to the idea that your frequency is ready to be restored, then look into this. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. Move toward it, only if you feel genuinely led. Now let me close today. I want to tell you about someone before I speak over you. She was 38 years old. She had spent most of her adult life searching, had followed teachers, attended retreats, built spiritual practices, read every book that promised to explain why the connection she was looking for had not yet arrived. She had more vocabulary for her spiritual life than most people, more structure, more discipline, and none of it had delivered what she was actually looking for. She did not come to the Genius Song with belief. She came because she had run out of other options. 2 weeks later, she came back with one word: synchronicities. She said, "Things are beginning to line up in ways I cannot explain. The right person, the right moment, the right word from an unexpected direction. It is as if the universe has begun speaking in a language I can finally read." She proved herself as a receiver before she proved herself as a seeker. Right now, all across the world, chosen ones are in the same stillness you are in, going through the same recalibration, receiving the same command. If someone came to your mind while you were in this message today, someone who has gone unusually quiet, someone who seems to be carrying something they cannot name, this was assembled for them too. Share it with them. You may be the shama answer to a prayer they have not said out loud. And now, before I release you from this space today, I want to acknowledge what just happened here. You came into this message in the middle of a life that is still in process, still full of questions without complete answers, still carrying weight in places that have not yet resolved. And you chose to stop. You chose to turn. You chose, in the truest sense of the word, to shama. That is not a small thing. Receive this now, wherever you are, in whatever position your body is in. In your mind, picture your hands, open, not empty, open, carrying the things you have been believing for, but no longer gripping them, surrendered in direction, not in desire. And in that posture, in that image, receive this. You are the voice. The words that have been forming in the silence of your waiting season were being calibrated for people and moments you are not yet standing in front of. The preparation was precise. The silence was the sharpening. You are the seer. The perception that has sometimes felt like a burden, the awareness, the sensitivity, the way you feel things others seem to walk past, that is your assignment in another name. And what Dr. Lake calls the decline effect, and what this entire season has been working to restore, is the frequency through which your seeing operates. You are being recalibrated, not broken. You are the spiritual warrior. You held the ground when the ground gave no visible reason to be held. You showed up when showing up was the only act of faith available. And what was built in that holding what was formed in the dark is the foundation of the destiny's embrace that was always being prepared for you, the embrace of everything you were made to walk into. You did not lose the season, you were formed by it. The closed doors were redirections, the silence was preparation, the delay was delivery in motion. And the God who said stop, he did not stop you to leave you there, he stopped you to hand you what he has been carrying. Receive it. In the Father's name. Amen. If something shifted in you today, if something landed in a place that needed to hear it, type the words, "I am ready" in the comments right now. Let those 3 words be the seal. Let them be your declaration that you received what this message was carrying. And if someone came to your mind, someone who is in a season they cannot explain and carrying something they have not said out loud, share this with them today. You may have just been sent.